Alright, so thank you for the introduction. I'm David Caruth, and I'm running for Parkland School Board. And I have two young children in the Parkland School District, my son Aiden and my daughter Annabelle sitting here. And the way I wanted to approach this evening is kind of like a job interview. I work in corporate America. I've been there for about 2 decades now. I've hired hundreds of people. And when they ask for advice, either after the interview or prior, one of the big things they ask for, or when I tell them, is tailor your experience to the role you're applying for. So I'm going to do that today for you guys, or this evening here. So I'm going to do that to know you a little bit better as a person, but then also about my experience and how that relates to me possibly being on the school board if elected. So with that being said, first off, I have a lot of integrity, honor, and passion for serving. So I'm a former Pennsylvania Army National Guardsman and a devout Christian. And in my free time, I also like to give back for veteran advocacy. And then I have a strong work ethic. So I grew up in Wayne County, Pennsylvania, on my family's farm. So I grew up in the crop fields, working for my grandfather's slaughterhouse. And then we also had school buses that we contracted to the public school up there. So I grew up helping out with maintenance and the dirty job of cleaning those, which was not fun, a lot of scraping bubble gum. And I attribute the work ethic I have today in corporate America to really having those dirty hands growing up as a child. Also, I have an advanced experience in business management. So, as I mentioned earlier, I've worked for 2 decades now for a Fortune 100 company. I've worked my way up. I started at the very bottom position, so it's a cell phone company. I worked at a mall store at Berkshire Mall in Reading as a greeter, and worked my way up over the years in the customer service, sales, management, business sales, and then for the past 12 years at our corporate global headquarters in New Jersey. And with doing that, I manage contracts and partnerships from any size business, just a few employees, up to working with the giants of Walmart, which is a very tough company to work with, Apple, Google, what name you, and then also did a lot of work with government. So I worked a lot with local, state, and federal contracts. I worked a lot with the Department of Defense and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, and then also working with nonprofits. So I've worked, and I still manage to this day, our partnerships with the Wounded Warrior Project and the USO. And then lastly here on this experience that I have is my board experience. So I currently sit on the board, it's a global board for my employer where I get to represent over 10,000 veterans that we employ. So I represent them for volunteerism, employee benefits, and working with various nonprofits. I also sit on a national board for a company called We Salute, which is a veteran benefit corporation. We get to do a lot of veteran advocacy work. So actually this past March I was in New York City on Wall Street and got to do the closing bell ceremony with not 1, 2, but over 20 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. So it was a great honor to do that work on that board. Moving along here, my education. So I just wanted to speak to that because running for school board, you can have a little knowledge about the education, and then ensuring the person is also educated themselves. So coming down from the Poconos, I went to Kutztown University for my undergrad. I got a BSBA, dual managed in marketing and management. I moved down to the Philadelphia area, went to Rosemont College to get my master's. Then I moved back up here right before my son was born, so about 2012, and then I started my doctorate. So I have a PhD in business management, and my focus was cognitive psychology. I built upon what is called the diffusion of innovations theory, which is the hows and whys behind technology adoption, and I applied that to decision making, why leaders make certain decisions about technology. So with that introduction here, the reason I'm running here is I'm a concerned parent of Parkland. I got 2 kids, and the reason I chose the Parkland area, strategically, well, Lehigh Valley, close to back home for the Poconos, close to Philadelphia, because I like going to see the Eagles, right? And then my office in New Jersey is a great central location. And then when I was looking at the Lehigh Valley, at the time, this is 2010, 2011, Parkland was the top school district. So I planted roots here. So I wanted my kids to have the best school district. Over that past decade plus, we just see their rankings consistently fall. And I feel like I need to give back, I need to step in, use my experience and leverage it to bring this back up to that #1 standard. So I do have plans to kind of go over this. So in my roles and my corporate role, and then throughout my education, research was a big component to develop any type of strategy, any type of vision, or any type of plan. So since I started this race many months ago, I visited over 10,000 houses across the Parkland district over the past 4 or 5 months. Went to numerous events. So I spoke with not just taxpayers, not just current parents, but past parents as well, getting feedback. Spoke with employees across the entire district, up through all different departments, up to the administration. So in doing this, I compiled a lot of raw data. And what I do with that raw data, you analyze it. And what you start seeing are themes that appear on this data. There's some commonalities, and you get statistical significance with certain areas on topics. And you start seeing these ideas come out of these themes that you're seeing. So what I did was I took those themes that are backed by this data and created an action plan. So if I'm elected, I have this 4-point action plan that I like to put in place. So the first one is protecting our children. So I believe we should have a very strong parental voice in the school board. At the school board now, there are 9 folks. Only 2 of them have actual students in the district. The other 7 don't. So there needs to be a parental, parents on that board that have a voice for their children to speak out and have a vested interest in the success of the school district. So I want to have a student-first agenda with a Parkland-first strategy. So within this action plan, I have 3 components within that. So the first one is creating an allegation task force. You probably see the lawsuit that Parkland's going through with a former administrator. My children are not going to mention what it's about, but I see some heads nodding, so you probably know what it's about here. So I want to strengthen that partnership with local PD here. I was actually this morning, I met with the Upper Macungie Police Department, and they had a coffee with cops. And I spoke with one of the resource officers that just so happens to be one at my daughter's school. She is covering 3 different schools. We don't have a dedicated resource officer in each school, and that's just due to the allocation of where departments are funding. So that's one area I definitely want to focus in. The other is surveillance. She shared with me that there's a lack of cameras in certain areas in the school where things can happen. We need to have that there for security and safety concerns, and also to look back on in case something happens. The second is hiring an external staff agency. Through this data, I've learned Parkland board and a lot of the people that have been there for a while like to hire the friends and family. That is completely biased, and it should not be allowed. We need to have candidates that are merit-based hires. So not hiring internally, we hire an external staffing agency, which would be unbiased, to hire and manage folks that are employed by this district. And lastly, implementing performance management. So I've done many business management roles and sales roles and looking at numbers and KPIs. I think the district needs to have clear and defined key performance indicators for each department, goals that they need to reach. And if we're not meeting those goals, we need to manage that performance. And if the performance management is not working, we need to talk exit strategy for some of those employees. If we want Parkland to be the best, we need to have the best employees. The second item on my action plan here is community engagement. So I learned a lot listening to different school board meetings online, attending a few in person, seeing very little folks in there. And I myself, a parent, both are my children are in sports. It can be challenging to come to some of these meetings. If I'm elected to come to school board, I'll be able to have childcare with my in-laws that live close. But a lot of parents don't have that luxury. They just started, well not just started, but a few years back, putting school board meetings on YouTube, which is great, we can view it, but there's no interaction. But it's 2025, we could have these meetings virtual and have a moderator. So they control who comes on and off mute when parents want to speak, and that'll give a lot of opportunity for parents to come online. So we need to leverage technology, that's the first component. The other is introduce a school board newsletter. So we have the Parkland Press that comes out, but it's all coming from the administration and the district. We're not hearing the voices of the community. Have this option where the community can introduce op-eds or comments, and this can be part of the paper. And then have the students and the teachers that are interested in this space and that want a career in journalism in the future manage it. It'll be a great way to interact with the community. The second is provide transparency. You need to increase communication, not just only to the parents, but to also to the taxpayers. What's going on in our district? Everything seems to be really tight-knit and quiet, unless something real big like a lawsuit blows up. So I want to increase the transparency that we're seeing there. My third component of my action plan is basically common sense. So I have a fair and appropriate education, especially for special needs. So I'll share here that my daughter is autistic, and it's been a challenging time working with the school district on getting the support that she needs, and in conversations with other parents of special needs students, they have that same issue as well. And there's laws that our state has and that our federal government has that protects these students. So what I'm proposing here is an appropriate education. So eliminating, there's a few components with here. So special education is one of them. The first one is eliminating political indoctrination. So whether that be in our texts or certain instructors that are teaching us their opinions to these children. And if we need to involve state lawmakers about this, then we will. I'll push for that. The next is support groups. Speaking more to special needs. So in these, luckily I'm out canvassing and talking with folks here and going to, my kids are in sports events, so I get to see a lot of people there. But there isn't like any type of group for parents with special needs. So it'd be nice for the district to offer an opt-in option for a group for parents to meet, because it's very stressful, it's very emotional, it's very overwhelming. And on that point is introducing information, like a resource center, whether it be online or both in person, where the park can provide materials and also speak to how they're adhering to the laws, again, mentioned for the state and fed that we have here. And then lastly, fiscal stewardship. This is a big one for me, because I've seen my taxes increase over the past few years. And during the budget seminar that Parkland did, I believe it was April or May of this year, they showed the projections for the next 4 or 5 years. 20% tax increase to cover the spending and what they're projecting. And I can't stand for that. So the first item is third-party financial audit. I want to hire an accounting firm to come through and go line by line of where they're spending their money. This should be public record now. I've been looking through all the board documents online. You can't get into the individual contracts, into the line items of individual contracts. So I want to get in there, get under the hood, and see what they're paying for. Gap closure initiatives. This is something we do in corporate America. So if you look at a budget for a year span, we break it into quarters every 3 months. And then within those quarters, we break it into weeks. And we look at our weekly results, what we're expecting. You can do that same thing with a public budget. And you can create benchmarks by the end of Q1, Q2, Q3, we should only be spending this much money. If we're projecting, based on these weekly results we're going to go over, we need to stop what we're doing and figure out how we can fix this. And then we do what are called gap closure initiatives. We pull in the minds of the folks that work for district, in this case being the administration, consult if we need to externally to figure out how we can overcome this projection that we're going to go over for taxes. And this will help with future planning as well. And then lastly, vendor and partner evaluation. So looking to go through every single one of our partners that we have. If they're not putting Parkland first, we're going to get rid of them. We don't need to have ones that are weighing us down. And also rebidding any contracts that we have externally too. You always find money. Or ways to reduce the spend. I've done this a lot in my past roles, where when I do bids out, I look for a good, better, best option. And I do that within certain categories. So I'm just putting a bid out and 2 or 3 companies will come back. I want to have a dozen or so come back. It creates competition, and you're going to get the best bang for your money. So in conclusion, at the end of the election cycle, there's 4 spots open, and there's 6 running. There's 2 Republicans, myself and George Rivera. And then there's 4 others. 3 are registered Democrats, but 1 is a registered Republican. He's been on the board for 12 years, looking to increase it to 16, but he's voted with the Democrats every single time. So I welcome your vote if you live in the Parkland School District to help make some changes there. Appreciate your time.